Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is episode 39. It is Monday, November 25th, and another week of the NFL season is in the books. Week 12 will wrap up tonight with the Chargers and the Ravens, a big AFC showdown out in LA. So back-to-back primetime games here, Sunday night at SoFi and another one tonight at SoFi. Although by the time many of you are listening to this, the game will probably maybe either have happened or is happening. A little bit of a different episode today. Recap episode, week 12. We're back. And DiMari, lots to discuss. Lots of action this weekend. A couple good games, couple meaningful games with playoff implications, divisions, all that good stuff. So a lot to get into today. How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I feel like we're on like Monday Night Countdown. Pretty late show, hour before the football kickoff. But yeah, like you say, it was a pretty big week. We've seen a lot of teams that kind of we believed in highly going into the season, kind of starting to fall off some slippery slope. We're seeing some teams that we thought weren't going to be so good kind of continue to roll. They're looking pretty good. Minnesota, for instance, one of those teams. But yeah, big matchup tonight. Looking forward to it. This is possibly two teams we're going to see play each other maybe later on in the playoffs. So excited to get to these recaps, though, talk about some things we've seen from some other teams, some things we might see on Thursday. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. It does feel like we're on Monday Night Countdown. And I guess although the Cowboys won yesterday, I thought about this yesterday. We kind of did our best. Yesterday we did like our best Jets and Cowboys prediction. We did not show up on Sunday, but we are here. We are here on a Monday. So but the Cowboys did show up yesterday and they won. So,
Unfortunately, but
yes.
I guess win's a win.
A win is a win. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of games tonight will be a big one with the Chargers and the Ravens. Potentially, like you mentioned, you're right, spot on there. Two teams that we might see in the playoffs here in January, and obviously a lot of matchups really coming up here that'll have a lot of playoff implications. So getting really good here as we head into December football. We'll preview some of the Thanksgiving games as well later on, but we'll start here in the NFC West. We'll start here with a big matchup between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Rough one for the Cardinals, right? A team that started the year obviously a little bumpy, 1-4 straight going into this game, coming off their bye week. They had that 31-6 domination against the Jets. It's weird. The last two games now, I think this is just telling of the Jets season. Cardinals crushed the Jets 31-6. They then, bye week, go into Seattle, lay an egg. The Colts beat the Jets. They then play the Lions and get embarrassed at home. So it's just like a theme that everybody just beats up on the Jets, and then you actually face a competent team the next week, or in this case, after their bye week, and they come back down to earth. So this feels like a reality check here for the Cardinals, a team that was 6-4 rolling, not turned into the NFL like darling, but a lot of people were starting to jump on the Cardinals, not bandwagon, but, jump on the Cardinals train a little bit. Kyler was playing well. The run game was dominating. And the offense yesterday couldn't do anything. They ran for only 49 yards. They were only averaging about 3.5 yards per carry, I believe it was. Kyler had the awful, awful rookie mistake on that 4th and 1. Looked like a rookie mistake on that 4th and 1. Completely over, just by about 5 yards, overthrows his man. Seahawks pick it off. That felt like the turning point in the game. What was just some of your overall thoughts on this one?
Well, to start, what if I told you Kenneth Walker had more rushing attempts himself than Arizona had as a team?
Wow. Yeah.
Walker rushed 16 times.
Yeah.
Arizona rushed 15 times. And they're not going to win football like that. I mean, you watching Arizona this year, their whole thing is kind of off the back of James Conner, letting James Conner, carry the load, let James Conner march them down the field, those type of things. They got away from the run. I mean, he ran the ball 7 times for 8 yards. That is not a James Conner game. That's not an Arizona game. And it's kind of confusing also considering the weather wasn't the best. So why not run the ball more against a Seattle team that's not that great of a run defense? So for Arizona, I mean, very bad look. And, as you get on, just say Arizona somehow does end up winning the division, get into the playoffs. You're not winning a playoff game where you rush for 49 yards and you're 15 times for 49 yards. That's not the way to do it. And I mean, also, though, in the same time, for as bad as they played, as bad as Kyler looked, as bad as they ran the ball, to only lose by 10 points, 16-6. I mean, that says a lot about their defense. Their defense did their part. Their defense played good, but at 6-5 and everyone's so close in the division, not too much to worry about. I wouldn't panic quite yet. Still got 6 games left to go, and they can bounce back. But that Arizona team, that's not the Arizona we've been seeing all year.
Yeah, 100%. And you do make a good point there about the defense. One of the things with Arizona this year that has caused them to have some struggles, I just remember, looking at them as a team going into the Jet game, they were 31st in the NFL in pass rush. Like their pass rush was ranked 31st in the NFL. They were bottom of the league in sacks. Yesterday they had 5 sacks. So they did get home to Geno. Obviously had the 1 interception, so they forced the turnover from that perspective. Geno also had the 1 fumble. He ended up recovering it, but Geno this year has had some turnover problems. But yeah, when a team's identity is run the ball and the other team just dominates and stops it. I mean, they had no room to run. I believe James Conner yesterday only had 7 carries for 8 yards. He did nothing, which is crazy considering this was a guy that really this year has kind of emerged as one of the more underrated, just workhorse backs in the NFL, has really turned into a very, very quality player. Always has been a solid player, but feels like this year more than ever, they've relied on him so much more than he's been relied on in the past, even going back to his Pittsburgh days. But yeah, this was like a reality check for Arizona. And now it feels like teams now, you got to find a way to adjust. Teams now, Mike McDonald, give him a ton of credit, defensive mind. He went in, got that defense ready to roll, not necessarily a like a dominant defense by any means. Like you mentioned, Seattle has had some struggles this year stopping the run. They've had some struggles as a whole as a defense this year. They have over the last couple of years, but tons of credit to him, especially an Arizona team who had a week extra to prepare for this game, coming off the bye week. Tons of credit to Seattle to win this game and really just completely outcoach, outmatch them. Now, here's my question with Arizona. And Kyler's done some good things this year, but he's had to he's kind of managed the game in a way this season. I don't think that's like an insult. It's not like we're talking Brock Purdy game manager here. But do you feel like there's any concerns now? Because now they go on the road to Minnesota. We know what Brian Flores can do. Very good defense with the Vikings. Although they did barely escape Chicago, but very good defense against the Vikings. Do you feel like, and then they got Seattle after that again. Are you at all worried that if this run maybe Seattle has kind of set like a formula for other teams where they know what to do now to stop the run, and now it's going to be more on Kyler's plate, which could be concerning considering he hasn't done a whole lot this year, and that pick 6 yesterday was one of the turning points in that game.
Mm-hmm. I don't really think so. And I know that might kind of contradict what I just said was like they have to run the ball to win, but they can also go pretty far off the arm of Kyler Murray, but it would be better if they can, obviously like any team, you establish the run, especially when that's their identity. And, when James Conner is rolling, he's rolling. But I mean, just looking at yesterday, I mean, Trey McBride had 15 targets. Marvin Harrison had 6. Michael Wilson had 4. So it's like you aren't getting the ball to your playmakers enough. There wasn't enough, spreading the love around. And that's why they struggled yesterday, because it was the McBride show. So again, no Connor, they can't run the ball. Even Trey Benson, who kind of comes in as another type of back to add another element in the running pass game, he had 1 touch yesterday. Marvin Harrison not getting the ball. So I wouldn't be too concerned for Arizona's like we're not running the ball too well, because again, I just don't think we're going to see another game this year where they only run for 48 yards. So I think for them, I mean, you do trust Kyler. Obviously, that's why you gave him the money you gave him when you did. But you got to stick with the run. And I know basically it's like PTSD. Like I'm talking about Dallas all over again, where they don't run the ball too well. And all of a sudden, we're going to drop back and throw the ball 50 times. That's not the way to do it, especially against a team like Seattle, who we both have mentioned, and I'm going to mention again, it's not running the ball well. You want to keep running the ball, let them try to bring the safeties up. That way you can get the deep shots that Kyler loves throwing so much. But I wouldn't worry too much if I'm Arizona. I mean, I think they're going to figure it out there, and they're going to establish the run.
Yeah, I agree. And I will also say this too about Arizona. Kyler's had a good season. And there's been a couple games where he's balled out. I mean, he had the really good game against Miami where they were down in that game late. They had to rely on him, made a couple big throws, threw for over 300 yards. He also had that game early in the year against the Rams where they blew him out after that week 1 loss to Buffalo, where he threw for 3 touchdowns. I kind of remember these pretty vividly because he's on my fantasy team and he's had some highs and lows this year in fantasy. The games where they run the football, he just doesn't do anything. And in the games where, they kind of let him loose. The one thing I'll say with Arizona, and it's been a common theme all year, they've got to find a way. It just feels like there's a disconnect between the two. And I know they've got some other pieces. Obviously, Trey McBride's had an excellent season. He's been one of the better tight ends in the NFL. But Marvin Harrison Jr., for as good as this guy was, there's always been these weeks where he's had a couple weeks here and there where he pops out and makes, he had the touchdown against the Jets. He had the big 100-plus yard performance against Miami. He had a huge game earlier in the year in that Rams game as well. He had, 2 touchdowns? I think he had 130 or 140 yards. He was great. But then there's weeks like yesterday. Yesterday was a day where you could have relied on him. And he had 3 catches for 47 yards. It's so weird how it feels like all year a guy of his level, and I don't know if it's just because they ran the ball so much. There's games where he's only getting 2 to 3 catches because they're not targeting him 8, 9 times. They might only be targeting him 4 or 5 times because they're running the ball so much. But if this is a team where the run starts to slow down, he's a guy that's got to step up and play way more consistent. And that falls on Kyler's plate as well. Because he, of course, when you Malik Neighbors, for example, given the quarterback situation he's got, and there's been so many times this year where he just pops off. Marvin Harrison Jr., there's been a couple moments, but I don't think enough. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yes and no. I mean, I do agree where he has to step it up if, they aren't running the ball too well. But at the same time, and it takes me back to Kyler's comments early in the year where he was like, my job is not basically to force targets to him. Ridiculous. In a way. Yes, don't turn the ball over trying to, get the ball to your playmaker, but you drafted him first round for a reason. This is not some undrafted guy you just went and picked up out of Michigan State or whatever. You drafted him as a first round to be your wide receiver 1. So you don't have to force him targets, but you need to find ways to get him involved very early. First drive, let's get him a target or 2 to let him know, wait, we got some plays coming for you. We're going to need you big tonight. The thing is, though, and, we don't see it on a broadcast view where we can blame one side where it can be, okay, well, Kyler's not throwing him the ball, or is he getting open? We really don't know what the case is, what the ideal is, but I think we do meet eye to eye where he has to find more ways to get involved, but at the same time, he doesn't call plays for himself. So they have to draw plays for him, short screens, quick drag routes, simple out routes, just some things to get him kind of flowing. I mean, at the end of the day, all he can do is line up, run his route, and hope the receiver get open, hope Kyler gets him the ball. And that's everything else is kind of out of his control. But if you ask me, it's bad play calling because we are not drawing up plays for him to be the number 1 option.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And yeah, but when you draft a guy 4th overall, he's got to get the ball a lot more than he has this year, especially when one of his team's biggest weaknesses was not having a number 1 receiver. They tried the couple years with D-Hop, but last year had Greg Dortch and all these guys get playing huge, huge roles. Marvin Harrison Jr. was supposed to come in and kind of combat that. And look, he's a couple big weeks away from potentially having a 1,000-yard plus season. It's not like this guy's got 300 yards through 11 games, but you would like to see them step it up a little bit there. Now, staying in the NFC West, you go to the San Fran Green Bay game. Man, oh man, I know San Fran is missing Brock Purdy. I know they're missing Bosa, but I mean, this is another one of these games where fans are going to question Shanahan just because it's a loss. It's another one of these games where if you're an NFL fan or a Niners fan, you really question if this team's even going to get to the playoffs this year. You look at their schedule, they've now got to go on the road to Buffalo for Sunday night. There is no chance they're coming out of there with a win. Then you look at 5-7 in the NFC the way it is, and they might have to run the table after that and get to 10 wins just to get in. Although the division is really, if we're being honest, the division there is still wide open. It's 6-5. They're technically 1 game out from the division, which is crazy. But I mean, what do you see this Niners team right now? It's just they are. This feels like a team that has made the Super Bowl twice, got to the conference title game 2 years ago, fell short, lost both Super Bowls to the same team. This just feels like a core. This feels like a team that's just run out of time. Like their time was 2019 to last year, and they couldn't figure it out in any of those seasons. And now here we are again. Like, and I'm not saying there's no chance, but they're 5-6. Even in their wins, like they were used to be so talented, they would just dominate in some of these games. I mean, Christian McCaffrey did nothing yesterday, and I'm not going to crush them. They were down most of that game. They had to throw. I'm sure they did not go into that game asking Brandon Allen to throw 29 times on the road. That was probably not their plan, but it turned into their plan when you look up and they're down 17-7, then they're down 24-10, then it's 31-10, and before you know it, it's 38-10, game's over.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I hate the 49ers. I'm loving it. They can lose out for all I care. But before this season started, you mentioned Shanahan being on the hot seat, which kind of could have been a little controversial because it's like there's no way this guy continues to get into the Super Bowl, NFC championships. How can they get rid of a guy like that? You were spot on. I think he's on the hot seat. I think the Niners run is over. Like you said, that window was 19 up until last year. I think it's done. And yes, they have injuries. Both didn't play. Ayuk being done for the season. But here's my thing. You have a guy that wanted a big contract that was deleting stuff off of social media and had his girlfriend posting cryptic messages on Instagram, who is getting outplayed by Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, who was shot in the chest, by the way, and has came back and is being more productive than Deebo Samuel. So this is going to be Deebo Samuel hate or whatever you want to call it. He's just not it. He's just not the answer. A big part of their struggle. Brandon Allen was it Brandon Allen? I can't remember his first name. Whoever started yesterday for the Niners.
Brandon
yes,
Allen.
no Brock Purdy. But Deebo Samuel, you don't have Brock Purdy. You have Brandon Allen. You need to step up. You are a Pro Bowl wide receiver. You wanted all this money just a few years ago. You need to step up. You cannot be dropping passes going through your hands that gets picked off. You can't be out there getting clamped up by, the Green Bay secondary. You need to find a way to be impactful in the game. And I think that's the thing with the 49ers kind of tying back into, well, this team looks so different. They just don't have the weapons no more. They still have McCaffrey. McCaffrey's still great. Kittle is still great. But it's like what we were saying last year, seeing they were feeding off each other's energies. Like McCaffrey's having a great game. Here goes Deebo. Here goes Ayuk. Or one, Kittle's having a great game. McCaffrey's going to get off. And here goes Ayuk. They don't have that no more. Like that is done and over with. I think they are figured out. And I think, like you said, that run is over. Shanahan probably has coached his last season in San Francisco. I think it's time to just basically blow it up. And the only thing that is saving them is the fact that the division is so bad and they can still make a run. But from the Niners team that we've been seeing the last few years where you have games where you look at San Fran and just like, there's not a single team in the league that will beat them. Now you look at this team and nobody fears San Francisco anymore. Going in, and I know they played on the road, but I'm just saying going into San Francisco, previous years you used to be like, oh my goodness. It's kind of how it is with Detroit now, where you go into Detroit, you're just like, oh, this is going to be a headache. San Fran's not that team. Like you don't really San Fran does not scare you no more. They're just another team on the schedule that you're looking to play and keep it moving. I think it's done. I mean, I honestly think they blow it up this offseason.
I mean, and you make up a good point. The home stuff you wouldn't ever want to play. I mean, this is also a Niners team that 2 years ago got to 3 years ago, was it? The Rams Bengals, right? 2021, 2022 Super Bowl.
21. Yeah.
They went into Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in that cold with, of course, before they went into, LA, obviously in the title game and ended up losing. But to your point about winning at home, this was also a team that could go into Green Bay and flipped the score around and they were winning 38-10, right? Now they're down. I get the injuries, but even before this team, I mean, Purdy hasn't looked the same this year. You mentioned it feels like the fall off of this team started in the offseason with the whole Ayuk stuff. Like it feels like it. And we both talked about how this was a big year for them, right? And if I were the Niners, I'd probably keep. I mean, Shanahan, like, I just don't a coach that good with that good of a mind. It's crazy to even think about firing him. But the questions are so large about can he win the big game. But this all goes back, to like the Ayuk stuff. It feels like something about that set something off. And there's even a guy too I know that does some content for the 49ers, and he even said like he went to some of the practices this year, and in past years the practices have always been like high energy, like you could feel the sense of hunger trying to get back to the Super Bowl, right? Last year, he was telling me when I was talking to him before the Jets-Niners game last year, he was saying how when they lost in the title game, you could feel that training camp. They were so hungry to get back. This year, like you couldn't feel that. It's almost like this last Super Bowl loss, something in that culture, something in that locker room kind of just like the motivation, the whatever. It's like we've been there twice. We lost to the same team. You can make the argument, maybe not the first time, but definitely this time, they were the more talented team. And you still found a way to lose, especially the way they lost, right, in overtime. 2 close games. And they blew it in 2019. They blew the 21-10 lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And that's also falls on the coach. They really blew both of them. So, I don't know. It feels like this group, something needs to shake up. Then IU contract's looking worse and worse as each week goes by.
It's so hard to blame him though, because he's not playing. He's not on the field. But
yeah,
again, I mean, and maybe this is coming from a place where I've never been fond of Deebo Samuel. Like he is just something about hearing him talk after every time they play Dallas or Philly. By the way, is the only time he ever shows up when those two are on the schedule. Is this arrogant vibe I get from Deebo Samuel? And I don't like it. So I'm not a big fan of Deebo. But trying to put all bias aside, he's not playing well. Like I know Ayuk got the contract at the end of the day, and he got injured. But you have to step it up. You should not be getting, no disrespect to Juwan Jennings, you should not be getting outplayed by Juwan Jennings. There's literally no reason for that to be happening.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I totally agree. I mean, like, you start to wonder with Deebo, and like you feel like his time is just not running out, but like you feel like teams are starting to figure him out a little bit, the way how they use him. Like he's not necessarily a dominant number one receiver. He's more of your Swiss Army knife, and it feels like teams now have figured that out, which is not a good thing because he's had 79 rushing yards this year. It's not even like this is a guy there's games where from a rushing perspective, he would take over.
I think here's the thing. The thing about Deebo, you're not going to line him outside. He's not going to beat you on a slant. He's not going to run past you on a fade. Exactly. He's not going to beat you on a post. A lot of it is we're going to run a lot. He's basically a middleman merchant. That's what I'm going to call it. We're going to attack the middle of the field. I'm going to make plays with the ball in my hands, attacking the middle of the field. Teams are taking that away. And like you said, the running aspect, the end arounds, all those type of things. We are taking all that away. We want you to run routes. We want you to be better than our cornerback. That's just not happening. I mean, for instance, I'm going to look at I believe the first time they played Seattle, if I'm correct. I think he finished that game with like 3 catches for 120 yards, and 76 of those came off of a one-play touchdown. So you take that away, not 26 yards with 2 catches. So it's just like he's not impacting the game like he used to, where a bunch of big plays and don't put get the ball in Deebo's hands, he's gonna make something happen. Now he's just out there. I'm gonna use my he's just a guy. He's just a guy. Like Steve Smith said about Jerry Jeudy. He's just a guy now. That's literally all he is. He's just a guy, nothing special. And that's a big part of the struggles. I mean, I can go on all day about Debo slander, but it's more than him. It's time just ran out for the team.
Oh yeah, 100%. It feels like this core has been attached for a while. It feels like it's getting, I don't want to say rotten. It's not really that. It's just the time has come. Like they're only getting older. It's when you go to the Super Bowl twice with one team, you should win one of them, especially when it's against the same team, especially the games. When you're up 21-10, you should win that one. And when you have the amount of talent you had last year over the Chiefs, I mean, McCole Harmon scored the game-winning touchdown for the Chiefs. Like, seriously? You're going to sit, or we say you're going to prop McCole Harmon up as some great wide receiver? No. He was leaking game plans the couple weeks prior. So, anyway, by the way, that was the perfect, like, finish to last year's NFL season. One of the craziest NFL seasons. Finishing it off was the McCole Harmon touchdown. And remember it was the offseason where the reports came out about him leaking game plans.
Yep.
I mean, and this guy's catching the touchdown. People globally are watching, and they're probably all purchasing McCole Harmon jerseys. Little do we know, he was basically like
a spy.
I don't even know what.
You know what?
Yeah,
like basically,
yeah.
That's what you
Pretty
want
much.
to call it. Just
yeah.
Oh,
Wonder if he leaked the Chiefs game plan.
I mean, if he did, that's probably more reason for Shanahan to get fired.
That is more reason for change.
Like you literally had the playbook and you still lost.
Yeah. Ah, man. Anyway, you go to the Packers side of things here. Big win for them, 8-3. And it's funny when you look at the Packers, you put them in any other division right now in the NFC, and they are, well, really, you put them in the South, you put them in the West, they're first place. You put them in the East, they're in easy second place right now, one game out. You put them in the North, they're third place because you've got the 9-2 Vikings and the 10-1 Lions. Is it crazy for me to say the Packers have kind of flown under the radar this year? From like all the Darnold hype and then all the Lions stuff, right? They've won 9 in a row, 10-1. They are the most quiet 8-3 team right now.
I am going to be so honest with you. As I'm watching the game, as that game ended, and I see Green Bay's record at the bottom, I'm just like, there's no way this team is 8-3. Not in the fact that they're bad, it's just they're not talked about. Like We're talking about the Chiefs, we're talking about the Lions, we're talking about the Vikings, we're talking about the Eagles, and then here's Green Bay just at 8-3, and like no one's saying anything about them. I mean, and a lot of that has to do with they were winning games with Malik Willis for some odd reason. That doesn't get talked about. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're a good team. I know they beat up on a crippled team yesterday, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's still a team on your schedule. You still got to go out and do your job. You still got to go out and win a game.
Yeah.
And, the rivalry with those two to go out and absolutely just punch them in the mouth like that, it deserves some credit. And I am very excited to see matchups with the Lions, matchup with the Vikings with Green Bay. Because, I mean, is it crazy to say that the team that represents the NFC in the Super Bowl this year is coming out of the NFC West? And I'm sorry, NFC South, North. I'm all over the place. NFC North. It's
I mean, my bad. Yeah, no, you're good. They are, three. All three teams. All three of them will probably make the playoffs. Yeah, but I could see it. I mean, I'll be honest. Out of all the teams, and I guess I'll ask you this as well. And I know they lost, but out of all the teams, I think the Vikings probably the least amount of chance. I think Darnold's going to kind of fold. I do. And I'm rooting for Darnold. I like him. I have nothing against Darnold. I always say it. Nothing against Zach either, but out of the two former Jet quarterbacks that I would root for, and I'm rooting for Geno too. I have nothing against, Geno. Happy to see him doing well as well in Seattle. Although it's a little different with Geno because that's so far removed from his Jet tenure. Darnold and Zach are still pretty fresh. Darnold was only 4 years ago. Zach, it was last year. But I just have a bad feeling Darnold's going to collapse. Like, I just think the whatever it is, they're just going to collapse. And unfortunately, the history tells us that's what the Vikings are going to do. They're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to win like 12 games this year, and they're going to lose, just like they did a couple years ago. What did they win? Was it 11-6, whatever it was? And they lost to Daniel Jones at home.
Daniel Jones, the safety, who's no longer on the Giants
Yeah,
roster.
that's
Yes,
safety.
Daniel Jones. I'm going to disagree with you. I know history. I know Sam Darnold. I'm going to disagree with you. After watching that Green Bay game, they can't catch the ball. They still struggle with drops.
Yeah, Christian Watson,
tremendously.
that was brutal.
That was bad. I don't know. I'm not going to get on Christian Watson, but they struggle with drops. And I mean, the Minnesota side of things is they're winning games where their best players aren't playing great. Jefferson was a non-factor yesterday. Like Justin Jefferson literally was out there.
Credit to Jordan Addison. He stepped up. Yeah.
Addison had a good game. Hawkinson had a good game. Aaron Jones, 56 rushing yards in the first quarter, finished the game with like 70 because he fumbled. But outside of that fumble, Aaron Jones had a good game. I just think when it comes down to when you need to win the most, I think the Vikings are going to do it. I give their defense the slight edge, but at the same time, they have the better playmakers. Green Bay just has the kind of, we're going to share the ball with everybody, whoever's day it is. That's who day it is. Whoever's hot, we're going to get it rolling. But I just think when it comes down to it with Minnesota's defense and the fact that Hawkinson or Jefferson or Addison can instantly just become a complete like game record, take over a game, I'm going to give the edge to Minnesota.
You make a good point about the defense. That defense you talk about defense wins championships. That's a defense that's in the playoffs, can just dominate. Like the way they blitz, the way Flores, and I'll be honest, I would be totally on board with Flores coming in to coach the Jets. So that's a different story for a different day. But the way he runs that defense, and like that could be a defense that can go on the road because they're not going to win the division, of course, most likely. It's still possible, but
they're only one game behind. I mean,
they are only one game behind. The Lions just seem so unstoppable, but we'll see. They could have a trip up. I mean, they're not going to finish 16-1. I don't think. Probably going to lose another game here or two. They'll probably lose 2 more games. So, do they end in a tie and Vikings get the tiebreaker? Who knows? We'll see. But in terms of like, let's say they don't win the division, I could see them. I mean, they're probably not going to face Philly, but like I could see them going on the road to Philly. They wouldn't face them in the first round, but I could see them in like the divisional round or whatever, however it shakes out. Because right now they're the 5. They like that defense can go on the road and shut down, I believe, in offense with Hurts and Saquon. Like that could be the one defense. That could be a defense that could shut one of them down.
100%. I know we're going to get into Philly a little later, but I mean, I know, and this is why football is so weird. And we talked about yesterday being a weird day. You look at Chicago, who just got some weeks where they don't look good, and Minnesota's defense just looks like the 85 Bears. And then you have yesterday where Chicago's offense looks amazing. Keenan Allen was like he drank from the fountain of youth, and they look good. So it's confusing, but Minnesota, I think if we get that Minnesota defense, and sorry to bring this up, some PTSD. If we get that Minnesota defense that played against the Jets and Rodgers, that defense is a very hard defense to, overcome and just be in a dogfight with.
You mean every defense that plays against the Jets and Rodgers? No, you're right.
We put it that way,
No, yeah, you make a good point. That defense that day was all over them, and that was actually the day when they folded Rodgers in half like a folding table. I thought he was done for the year, which shockingly wouldn't have been the worst outcome because even with him healthy, playing at whatever, he's playing on one leg at this point. They're still 3-8, so it's like none of it matters at this point. None of it matters. You see Big Cat's tweet the other day?
Was it New York related? What was it Jet related?
No, it was the sports one.
No, I don't think I did.
It was like I'll pull it up. I gotta have it. I believe I have it. Maybe I don't have it.
Oh wait. Is it where's Rodgers' next stop or something like that? I have seen that one.
It was just sports related, and this is how you feel as a Jet fan. Hold on. I'll pull it up right now. It was hilarious. Sports.
Yeah, I've seen a good old where will Aaron Rodgers land in 2025? And someone said with Pat McAfee, and that was absolutely hilarious.
Here it is. Sports suck, waste of time, nothing matters. We're all going to die anyway.
I mean, it's not a lie.
It's and that's kind of just that the mindset as the Jet fan of 3-8. That's just got to be the mindset. Now, I will say this though, just back to our point, the Packers. One of the reasons why they probably have flown under the radar. You look at their 3 losses. Opening Brazil game Friday night against the Eagles. Then they lost to the Vikings. Then they lost to the Lions. So you look at their 3 losses. They were all against 3 really good teams, which I guess you could take that and kind of say, oh, well, it's not like they've lost against 3 bad teams, but they lost to 2 teams in their division and the Eagles. So people kind of look at that and say, yeah, they're 8-3, but look at the teams they've lost to. And
So,
I will
yes,
say
you
this.
can flip that.
You could flip it and say
they can't beat anybody good.
Yeah,
you know how
could,
that goes.
exactly.
There's a tail. There's 2 sides to that tail.
Especially
they
in
can't
their
beat
division.
Anybody good.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're 100% right. And if you remember that game against the Vikings, they were getting blown out. That was like the 28-0 game. Yeah. And then they ended up coming back late. They still lost. But if it wasn't for that comeback, they could have lost that game, 35-7, 35-10, if the Vikings never let that back into that game. So you could be talking about one blowout in the division as well. But to your point that you mentioned, and you brought up a good point, and I kind of want to add on to it. Like, even though the fact that the Niners were coming into this game with Brandon Allen and without Bosa and all that stuff, they still had, they still got a lot of talent on their team, even with Ayuk down with the torn ACL, of course, a couple weeks ago. Like, the Packers last week struggled against the run. They allowed the Bears to go off for like 170-plus yards. Yeah. Caleb Williams had a huge rushing day. So the fact that they were able to turn it around in 1 week and shut down Christian McCaffrey, who had 31 yards, which is crazy. You got to give them a lot of credit, even though the Niners on paper were not their full strength and won't be without Ayuk the rest of the way. Technically, they won't be at full strength at all the rest of the season. You do got to give them credit for turning it around against really one of the league's best players in CMC. So I'll tell you what, that Lions game, they've got 2 more games. They got a game against the Lions and the game against the Vikings. Those are going to be 2 great games. Both of them are on the road. That's another thing that's tough too. They lost both of those games at home. Now they got to go on the road in Detroit, and they got to go on the road in Minnesota. And that Minnesota game is in week 17. So that could potentially be a huge game for Minnesota. Like, Minnesota plays the Lions final week of the season. I would love that. Would be amazing if that game's for the NFC North, almost like the Bills, Dolphins. Was it last year?
Last season.
Yeah, game 272 be for the division. I would love that. Now, last year, nothing will match last year because wasn't it the Dolphins won that game? Bills were eliminated.
Yeah, Bills had won 5 straight at that point. That would have made 6. Miami wins. With a Miami win, they win the division, obviously get in. A Miami loss, they still get in. Buffalo's eliminated with the loss. And Josh Allen did the usual. And
went into Miami and won.
Yep.
Yes. So, yeah, that Minnesota game's going to be great because they only lost by Detroit by 2. Man, the NFC North, I take back what I said about the Lions running away with it. The NFC North is... It's going to be up until week 18. Unless if the Vikings have a slip up. Because you look at the Lions schedule here, Bears coming up, they should win. We'll get to that soon. But then Green Bay at home, that'll be tough. Then the Bills. We talked about Chiefs-Bills being the game of the year. Now, the only reason that one might be big is because it's AFC, conference, of course. This one, 2 non-conference teams. So really, big picture doesn't mean a whole lot, but it would be a huge win for either team. And a huge test for Detroit.
Just imagine 6-7 years ago telling someone, "Hey, I'm from the future, and I'm telling you that 2024 matchup with the Lions and the Bills is going to be legendary."
It's going to be I don't know what are the Bills now? 9-2. Lions are 10-1. So Lions are going to be 12-1.
Yeah.
12-1. The Bills are gonna be like 11-2. Yeah, the 11-2 Bills are gonna be playing the 12-1 Detroit Lions. You sure it's not 2-11 and 1-12?
So I'm reading that right. Just this Josh Allen guy, he's special. Just wait till you see him.
That's the one thing I'm holding out hope as a Jet fan is these franchises who are in the same spot as us. I mean, heck, the Bills didn't make it in 18 years. 14 years have been terrible. The Bills went a whole nother 4 years. It's the one thing. Like now you look at the Lions, Texans, same thing. You couldn't pay people to go to those games. Now here we are. So maybe the Jets can turn it around. Probably not, but one can dream.
You never know.
All right.
I mean, Cleveland did
for a year, and then they decided, you know what, let's pick up Deshaun Watson.
It's
not really. They had Deshaun Watson last year, but
yeah.
Should have never got rid of Flacco. They should have never gotten rid of their spry 38-year-old quarterback.
Who is now sitting on the bench,
Who's now losing his job back to Anthony Richardson. Yep. Anyway, move on here to the Eagles. Last night, if it didn't get already bad enough for Giants fans, not only do you watch the Eagles win, but you do it by watching Saquon. He's a stud. I mean, what more has to be said? The guy is a monster. First in the NFL in yards, first in the NFL in carries, tied for fourth in touchdowns, 255 yards yesterday. He is averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Last night, 9.8 yards per carry. Of course, had the big 72-yard run. This guy is a monster. He's a monster. And the fact that, like, just to tie the Giants into this a little bit, because I know we wanted to add them in here a little bit, but the fact that the Giants had Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley on their team, both of those guys let go. They extend Daniel Jones. He's no longer here. That is malpractice. I mean, crazy. And is this like the missing piece for Philly? Like, is a legitimate number one running back? It feels like it. I mean, he is a monster. He's a beast. And A.J. Brown with a huge day yesterday as well. A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts might be one of the most lethal 1-2-3 punches in the NFL.
If I knew I was hyping up Philly, I would have brought a barf bag to start. And we're forgetting Devontae Smith, who didn't even play last night. So Devontae Smith is on that field. The four of them are just completely dangerous. But Saquon Barkley, I don't know what to say about him. I mean, the guy who drafted him, I think like third overall in my fantasy team, we were bashing him after that draft. He was a genius. That guy clearly knows ball. He was a genius. Saquon's just the truth. And I mean, I know you say he's fourth in rushing touchdowns, but he has got to the 1 yard line 8 times this year and got stopped. And all those, I believe, went to Jalen Hurts or they've thrown the ball. So just say you add 6 more touchdowns sometimes he fell at the 1. That is an MVP like season. I know Derrick Henry, but I mean Saquon Barkley is up there, or you can argue even having a better season than Derrick Henry, who we are going to see tonight. He can continue to further his case, but I mean, I don't know. It's like for the Giants. You get rid of the guy who's leading like the league in every category in rushing and besides touchdowns. And then you get rid of the one safety who's leading the league in interceptions. And
they potentially gave away. He's winning offensive player of the year. Guaranteed.
Oh, he is.
But they potentially gave away an MVP, and there's a good chance McKinney's winning NFL defense player of the year. He definitely will be a finalist.
And the crazy thing, when they moved Daniel Jones to safety, that tied Daniel Jones and Xavier McKinney for interceptions in the league, by the way. Just one of them was thrown, the other one was called. But
hey, hey, you know what, though? The Giants, their solution was Tyler Nubin and then Daniel Jones at safety. They were trying to pull like a greater version of Travis Hunter.
All right. Well, hear me out. Little did I know, I found this out a few weeks ago. My old defensive back coach in Little League football, his nephew is Tyler Nubin. So I'm not going to do any Tyler Nubin slander, or I'm not going to slander the Giants on his behalf
Tyler Nubin's
because
been solid for them.
he's actually been good. But
the Daniel Jones slander is welcome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm never gonna stop slandering Daniel Jones. I mean, maybe he might be playing in that arena football championship we were talking about off air in the
Man,
mall.
he doesn't even have to move. He's got American Dreams right across the parking lot. You know,
This organization, after
forget about
watching,
going out to like Vegas or something. Who needs Vegas when you got American Dream Arena football?
that's
Or
true, and
needs
they have
Minnesota or Baltimore, wherever the heck he's gonna go.
like I said, they have an amusement park. I mean, I've seen Dallas pop up, but for the Giants, I mean, oh my goodness, I don't even know. I kind of feel so bad for Dable because it's like you go from Josh Allen. And I know at the end of the day, every coach wants that head coach opportunity, but you go from Josh Allen to Daniel Jones to you want to get rid of Daniel Jones, you want Jaden Daniels. They basically tell you no, to let Saquon walk, all while you are in charge of that organization. I feel bad for the guy. I honestly, genuinely feel bad for him. They have done him so wrong. I hope he gets another chance somewhere.
Yeah.
Where he can prove himself because the Giants clearly hate Dayball for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean the whole Hard Knocks thing was kind of just a train wreck. I mean, the whole wanting a quarterback, Joe Shane wanting a quarterback, then John Mara telling Joe Shane, I would really have a hard time stomaching or whatever the quote exactly was if he goes to Philly.
If he goes to
Yeah.
Philly.
Yeah, sleeping. That was it. Knew it was one of the S words. Not even going to Philly, though. Going to Philly and winning the MVP. I mean, it's bad. And then, yeah, it's a mess. It's a train wreck. And I don't know what's going to happen because John Mara just a couple weeks ago gave them the vote of confidence. He said they both are coming back, but yesterday was pretty close. If you listen to the post-game press conferences, Malik Neighbors was like, it's not the quarterback. I don't know what it is. They're like, do you think it's the play calling? He's like, ask Dable. He basically said Dable's play calling. It's the coaching. They asked Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence if the message is getting through and from the coaches, and they said, I think so. So it's like, what's going on there, you know? I don't know. I still think what do you think? You think they should keep Dable or?
You gotta let him go. You gotta let him go. I mean, I just don't think because it is where again, I don't think it's all on him. Obviously, the players are saying something different, but at this rate, you clean house and you start over. There is nobody that you're going to bring in that is not Lamar, Josh Allen, or Mahomes that's going to come in and completely just change the culture and do a complete shift.
And I want to just say this, and I will admit they did Daniel Jones wrong. They basically told him, hey, man, we don't want you here. We're going to draft a quarterback. If we don't get a quarterback, you're going to be starting. Like, just get rid of him then. You know, like you can't have him start. He did not. There was many reports that came out that it was an awkward feeling around the building because the Giants didn't want him, but they had to kind of put him there because Tommy Cutlets won a couple games for them last year and they blew their draft positioning. Heck, though, even looking back on it, Bo Nix probably wouldn't have been bad at that 6th pick, but I guess it doesn't matter. They would have gotten destroyed if they drafted Bo Nix at 6th overall, but I don't think anybody saw this from Bo Nix and the Broncos. Either way, though, yeah, I mean, they messed that up with Jones. I totally agree. And, you know, I look at the whole Dable thing. Like, I would like him with a young quarterback, but at the same time, it's a results-driven business. They were 3-8 last year. Now they're 2-9. He went from winning 9 games in year 1. He's won 5 games so far the last 2 years. If he won 9 games in year 1, there's a chance he doesn't match that total over the last 2 seasons if this keeps up. So how can you defend a guy who won 9 games in year 1 and then won 8 like the next 2 seasons if they find a way to win maybe 2 more? And they're not even competitive.
You can't, and I know Neighbors is getting a lot of heat. Like it's been all on ESPN like all day, but
he's a receiver upset. He's speaking his mind.
Exactly. And one side of it, it's just like, all right, you got to stay professional. You got to stay calm. You can't go out there and bash the coaches. But it's the same thing we were just saying earlier to start off with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm your number one option. And I'm not I don't want it to come off like as these guys saying it in an arrogant way, but it's the truth. I am the number one option. I make plays happen when the ball is in my hand. When I am hot and I'm rolling, other guys get hot and they get rolling because I acquire a lot of safety attention. And teams come into games preparing how to stop me, especially in Neighbors' case, because it's just like outside of that offense, it's Malik Neighbors, it's Tyrone Tracy. I'm like, who else am I worried about? So I need to see the ball at least. I need at least 10 targets. Coming into the game, we need to figure out how to get me the ball. So why are we down 30 and now you want to draw plays for me? The game is over. We're not coming back. We're way out of this thing. And when you're in a position like that, I think it's kind of I can use basketball more, way of a closer way to compare it. It's almost like as a guard, you're a shooting guard all day. You're sitting in the corner, like you're not touching the ball. You're not really seeing the ball. And then later on in the game, we're trying to get you involved. Like I'm cold. Like I haven't touched the ball all day. Like I'm out of it. I'm not really feeling the same as I was coming into the game. Why would I care now? I don't think Neighbors was lying. I mean, was there a better way to go about it? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you drafted me in the first round, similar to Marvin Harrison. You drafted me in the first round to come over here and be a playmaker and make things happen. And I don't even exist on Sundays. So I get it.
Yeah. And I will just say this too. There's already Giants fans. I'm hearing it. There is a Giants fan that they've been out there on the radio, all that stuff here in the New York market that says two things. Bring in Aaron Rodgers if he leads the Jets. You do not do that. You do not do that. That is stupid. Maybe Rodgers goes elsewhere. I am just warning you. You do not want Aaron Rodgers anywhere near your building. Number two, Trevor Lawrence has been another name that pops up. I do not understand. I don't understand the love for Trevor Lawrence. I don't. I will never get it. Like, this is a guy that, what has Trevor Lawrence done other than beat Brandon Staley in the playoffs? I mean, he's got more playoff wins than my team has in the last 14 years. But take away that. No. You take on that contract.
Hear me out. I am not big on Trevor Lawrence either. Neither one of us.
And I get it from the Giants, but you got to start fresh.
Because, okay, here's now, truthfully, and I know we talked about this. I don't know if this was last time we were on, the time before that. You look at the quarterbacks right now that's coming out in the draft. It seems every week.
It's not great. It's ugly.
It's not.
It gets worse every week.
Somebody is literally finding a way. It's almost like they know the Giants are going to get the first pick, and they're just like, let me just be as trash as possible so I don't go to New York. Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, everyone's just like, I'm not going to New York. The pizza's great, but especially after those greatness 50 jerseys or whatever they were called, whatever, for the Giants, they seen those uniforms. They said, I am not going to New York. So everyone is basically tanking their draft stock. So outside of Cam Ward, who are you drafting? And maybe Shador, but I don't know, because the first time we're down 40 and Shador does this, flexes his Rolex on a first down. When you're down 40-6 in the third quarter, I'm going to lose it. So we're going to say Cam Ward and Shador, give or take. Who else are you willing to, draft to be the franchise guy?
Milroe to me, I love the running aspect of his game, but it's
another
disagree.
Anthony Richardson situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know why I said I disagree with the Milroe stuff. I mean, like, I agree with you, but I was gonna say another word for. I like the running stuff, but I don't. The passing isn't good, and I agree. The Richardson comparisons is pretty, like, oddly close. Not oddly, pretty scary in terms of how close they are. I mean, very good runners. Passing wise, they're going through their reads, going through their progressions is not great. Accuracy is not always there. I mean, this weekend was bad day for the Milroe stock against Oklahoma, a 5-5 Oklahoma team.
I don't get it. I mean, just a little more on that. It's like, and it's all guys. It's Ewers as well. It's Milroe. It's Jackson Dart.
Yeah, Ewers
it's like
benched. Yeah.
You see some games and you're just like, we can see why you're going to go as high as you may go. And then you look at other games and you're just like, you look like a true freshman out there.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, like where a lot of teams are, and that's where maybe the Giants think. But, this year's quarterback class isn't great. I like Cam Ward a lot. I think Shadur probably has some good traits. I do question about the leadership, though. I mean, he's already how many times he thrown his offensive line under the bus this year?
Too many.
I mean, yeah, that's not going to survive in the NFL. So I do have questions there. Milrow, we just talked about the Richardson comparisons, is pretty scary. Quinn Ewers, I think, does some good things, but this year has been rough for him. He might have been better off just going last year, but either way, I think this year's hurt his draft stock more than it's actually helped it. But he wasn't going to be a first round pick last year. But either way, like that's where you end into this whole conversation of, and maybe that's where they do pick up a Trevor Lawrence. Like they give Brian Dable and this GM and this coaching staff 1 year with Trevor, say, hey, go out there and do it. If they don't, then they blow it up. They tank. And it's going to be tough to tank with Trevor and the whole contract. And I don't know how that all ended up playing out. But then you tank 2026 and you go for like Manning. That's what I think that's what I do think a lot of teams are going to do. I think the Jets could be in that boat as well. We'll talk a lot about this. This draft with the way the quarterback is going to kind of be exciting to see what teams do. But next season, I could see there's going to be a lot of teams, in my opinion, that are going to have bridge quarterbacks. They're going to just wait to try and tank and win the Arch Manning sweepstakes. That's what it feels like.
And I mean, top of my head, trying to think. Oh, Manning.
I mean, if the Jets get the 1 pick, he'll go back to college like Peyton. We'll have to tank for like the next 2030. We'll have to tank for like the 2030 crop.
Is Arch, is he eligible next year?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'm thinking
he might go back for another year. I mean, it's possible he goes back for and we're talking 2027 because it would only be 1 year for him of actually starting. So it is possible he plays too.
And I asked because if he goes back, and can you imagine teams tanking for
I can't take 2 years of tank. I can't take 2 years of tank. Lagway, yeah.
Lagway and Manning. Which one are you taking?
Probably Manning. But that's right now. We've seen more Lagway than we have probably Manning, if we're being honest, especially Lagway against better competition. Talk about extending Billy Napier.
What a weekend. My two favorite teams I just don't want to win. Wins. And I'm a little off topic, but hear me out. You beat Ole Miss, you beat LSU. If Florida would have found a way to beat either Georgia or Tennessee, I mean, we're talking about a completely different team right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're going, we got some 5-star commits that just committed. The future is bright. I can say that.
Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, just Giants, whatever, Eagles stuff, Saquon. Good one, obviously, for the Eagles, kind of bouncing back to that. Giants are in a really tough spot. Really interesting to see how the whole quarterback thing is. I'll just say this as a Jet fan. I can't take 2 years of tank. Like if we tank, Manning doesn't go to the draft and we tank again, they better. At that point, Jordan Travis better be good. He better be serviceable. Because if Jordan Travis isn't good and Tyrod in 2026 doesn't have a contract, who the heck's going to be our quarterback? I mean, they might have open tryouts.
Guys can always take Trey Lance. He's a free agent after this year. We won't be signing him back.
I believe we can opt out of MetLife 2028. I believe it is. I could be wrong. It's either 2026 or 2028. Watch us like opt out of MetLife. We don't have a stadium, so we got to play in like the MetLife parking lot, playing on concrete and freaking like, I don't know. What's some scrub quarterback? Like Nick Foles comes out of retirement. Oh, jeez.
Well, I hope Tyron Smith retires before then because
Tyron Smith should retire right now.
Cooked as it is, he cannot do that.
He should have been fired. He should have retired after this year. I think it was telling that Tyron Smith got one offer this offseason. And guess who it's from? My crappy football team I root for.
That is what we call washed. That's literally it.
100%. Let's see here. Any other games here? Texans, bad loss for them. Really just a couple bad losses here for Houston. going through a little bit of sophomore slump. CJ Stroud as well, sitting at 7-5. The Diggs injury feels like it might be impacting them maybe more than we originally thought, although the offensive line isn't very good either. But losing to the Titans at home and Will Levis is not just Will Levis, letting Will Levis play well.
When you say Diggs, are you talking about Trayvon Diggs?
Stephon Diggs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought I didn't know Stephon Diggs played corner. Even if Stephon Diggs is on that field for that offense, their defense is terrible. Will Levis was 11 for 11, like 170 yards and a touchdown to start the game.
Shredded him.
If Diggs is on that field, I mean, offense. Let's see, 27 points yesterday. They had Nico Collins got a touchdown call back. Even if Stephon is on that field, I mean, he does not play corner. Maybe if his brother was on the field, yes, but that defense is bad. They're not that good unless Will Levis just finally understands it now. I don't know.
I'm gonna probably say no. Will Levis will never understand anything they do in the stupid Mayo commercials, even when the team's 3-8. But yeah, I mean the Texans defense, they've been struggling. I mean, they let the Jets go out there in the second half and dominate. Obviously, the Detroit game was, I mean, they picked Jared Goff all 5 times and still found a way to lose. Yeah, I mean, this week was bad. Letting Will Levis go into your building and beat you like that is ugly. Ugly. No other way to put it. They've got Jacksonville now. You've got to win. This feels like a can't lose coming up here against Jacksonville. They will probably win it, but it feels like a can't lose in terms of beating Jacksonville, and then they got their bye week. And then coming out of Jacksonville, they've got Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore. And Miami's playing a lot better. So that won't, and if the way Houston's playing right now, that won't be an easy game. KC's weird. They're going to make the playoffs, but they can barely beat Bryce Young and the Panthers right now. I don't know if some of that's just the way the Chiefs are this year, or some of it's the Panthers maybe have actually kind of found something. And in Baltimore, which would be tough. Then they end with Tennessee. So it feels like Jacksonville, Tennessee's are like can't loses. You've got to win those games. You get to 9-5, and they're also lucky. The Texans are lucky that their division is terrible. Because if the Colts or any of these other teams were somewhat competent, we'd actually have a race. But since none of these other teams are competent, they're going to win a division. They're going to win a home playoff game. It's just how ugly or pretty does the rest of this regular season get. That's kind of where we're at. You beat Jacksonville. They need like a dominant game. Go into the bye week, recoup. They need a bye week. They need it. Like it's coming at a perfect time for them. Go into the bye 8-5. Come out of it and get ready to face a Miami team that's playing better, and then obviously arguably the 2 best teams in the AFC, and the Chiefs and the Ravens.
So. Hot take, November 25th, 8:23 p.m. If the Texans don't figure it out, you just may. Let's see. The Texans don't figure it out, a team like the Chargers or the Broncos will go into Houston and beat them in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to get real hot and say like the Colts are going to go on a run.
Oh, absolutely not. I would never.
You don't believe in the power of friendship, Flacco and Richardson?
I can't. I really
Neither
can't.
do I.
No.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, the Chargers right now, they're not going to win the AFC North or West, most likely. It's not crazy. I mean, the Chiefs could have a slip up. They've obviously played the Chiefs 2 weeks, I believe, after next week, because the Chiefs got the Prime Video game. Chiefs still got to go on the road Christmas against Pittsburgh, although that was a bad loss against the Browns. But yeah, I could see the Chargers going into any of these places. Even if, let's say, the Chargers is probably won't happen. Let's say the Chargers potentially drop to like the 6th seed, and they got to play, or maybe like I don't think Buffalo would drop, but even I could even see the Chargers going up to Buffalo. I could see the Chargers, the way they're coached, the way they play, going on the road and beating a handful of teams. I could definitely see them going on the road because they've already. I know they lost, but that was a game Herbert got hurt in. I could definitely see them going on the road and beating the Steelers.
And by the way, they just marched the ball right down the field on Baltimore, and now they're up 7-0. But
please tell me Justin Herbert threw a touchdown.
Justin Herbert rushed for a touchdown,
All
5
right,
yard
I
rush
need
for
him to
touchdown.
get not. I need him 29 points tonight in fantasy to
Well,
win,
he's
and
probably already at 8.
he's got 7. I need
But
him to have 29 points or else my season's pretty much over.
well, Baltimore's defense is not that great, so anything's possible. But yeah, I mean,
I need this game
this is a
tonight more.
team. It's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
This is a team you were high on this offseason. I was not high on the Chargers whatsoever. Sometimes I question myself, like maybe I really don't know ball because I look at 1 year and all kind of everything that was bad last season. The Chargers were bad. Herbert was not great. I know he ended up getting injured, but he wasn't great on the field.
Yeah.
So I clearly don't know ball that well. Maybe it's the Harbaugh thing. This is a very good Chargers team, very well coached Chargers team. They run the ball very well, and they have a bunch of Best Buy workers out there, wide receiver, getting it done. So I mean, I applaud Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Whoops, sorry. I was on mute. Yeah, I totally agree. With the Chargers stuff. I'm not saying I agree with your lack of ball knowledge, but I do agree with the Chargers going on the road. And hey,
I
nothing
agree
will
that, like,
lack more ball knowledge than the guy you were telling me about that said Trevor Lawrence is.
oh,
my
good friend Daniel.
Sorry, what was the take about Trevor? What was he? I remember you were talking to him, and he was like, "Are you crazy? The Jaguars are going to win."
Just how good Trevor is, and that everything is all the odds in the world are stacked against him, and yeah, that clearly was a terrible take on his end. So yeah, what a guy.
Yeah. What's out of all the top teams right now that you could be like we're talking about, right? Vikings maybe making a run. Talk about the Packers, like these road teams. What's a team you could see? And I know we kind of talked about the Texans, but maybe more of like a top 3 team that you could see losing, like Buffalo, KC, or out of that team, like Detroit, Philly. Let's go that out of the top 4 teams right now, seeding wise. I would say KC, but they don't. Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm going to go Philly because how good, and I can't think of a game top of my head where Saquon has been shut down, but how good is that offense going to look, and how fluid are they going to look when Saquon completely is shut down? How is AJ Brown going to bounce back? Because you know he has been known to be quite of a diva. How is AJ Brown going to bounce back when they can't run the ball? He's not getting the ball. Things aren't going their way. How's Jalen Hurts going to look where he does have to drop back and throw the ball 45 times? I'm going to go Philly. I know their defense is also a lot better, but this might be a question of my ball knowledge. I'm not even going off of ball knowledge. I'm going off of pure Kelly Green hatred. Philly is the team that somebody will find a way to go in there and beat.
And I don't have much faith in Nick Sirianni.
That either.
Nor do Eagles fans.
I can't stand that guy's face every time he's on my TV. So I honestly hope they lose to something. I mean, that's somebody can go in Philly and beat them. They are very beatable.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see talk about teams going into Philly. It probably won't happen. No, it won't happen because there's no way they're going to drop to the 3. Packers would have to all day drop to the 7, but like I could see Green Bay going into Philly and beating them 100%. I could also see, I don't know, the Commanders are, I don't know. Commanders are in a weird spot. They're
frauds.
They're frauds. You're going on the Commanders fraud train.
Yeah, they've been. I guess they took Halloween a little too seriously and have been impersonating a good football team for quite some time because that's not a good football team.
Yeah.
They are frauds, and I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you can go.
Look at some of their wins. I mean, you get a very bad Cincinnati defense that hung up. You know, it took like a Hail Mary, not really a Hail Mary, but I mean, they beat Chicago on a Hail Mary. Cincinnati torched their defense. Just Cincinnati's defense was worse. You look at a lot of these losses, and they're pretty high scoring games. And you kind of look at Dallas yesterday, where like you put this Commander team on the rope where they aren't throwing the ball that well, running game is non-existent. How good are they actually? You take McLaurin out of the game, how good are they actually going to be? I think Dallas did that yesterday, and that's what teams are going to do. So I have the Commanders on fraud alert.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And it's weird with the Commanders, and I was going to mention this before I cut you off. With this team, like if early in games they struggle offensively, then late they turn it around. And I know some of it's the miracle stuff, like the Hail Mary or yesterday Terry McLaurin going untouched for 70 yards, and then, by the way, former Jet missing that. Austin Siebert missed that kick.
What a guy!
But no, I mean, like they adjust, and then late in games they early in games they struggle, then late in games they adjust. I don't know. They just feel like, yeah, something might be catching up to them. I'm not sitting here and saying that they are like not going to make the playoffs, but because you look at their schedule coming up here, they've got Tennessee coming up. That should be a win. Then they've got a bye, which similar to Houston could be a perfect time for their bye. And then they've got New Orleans, which should be a win. And then Philly, Atlanta, Dallas. Atlanta's weird. They are. You disappointed in Atlanta this year?
Yeah, I can't get a good read on Atlanta. 1 week they're so great. Well, I guess it's only when they play Tampa, where they're just so great and everything is clicking. And then you got weeks like Denver, when they play Denver. We're just like, Kirk Cousins, what are you doing? I'm not too sure of it on Atlanta. And the fact that the Bucks are still in the mix of winning that division with all the injuries, everything going wrong for Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield needs to be in the MVP race. You said this last week. I am back in that campaign, Baker for MVP, because my goodness, I mean,
baked cutlets.
Baker deserves so much credit for what he's doing.
I'll be honest. I don't know if it's the Giants, and like I kind of like to watch them lose sometimes. But I gained a lot of I used to hate Baker's act. I used to like the whole planting of the flag at Oklahoma, all that stuff. But I gained yesterday I found him hilarious. Yesterday was my first time. I actually really liked the way Baker Mayfield plays the game. Some of it might have been because it was the Giants, and they were already a laughingstock, and now we got them doing the Tommy Cutlets celebration. They're burning the cutlets, but I mean, yesterday listening to him, that reporter was getting so angry. But no, it's crazy. The NFC South's interesting.
I've always been a Baker believer. I mean, even you're talking about planting the flag, but do you remember? I don't know. Well, I know you say you don't really watch too much college, but the time we were at Oklahoma, they were playing Kansas. He didn't want to shake Kansas did not want to shake his hands. Went out, absolutely torched Kansas for 400 yards. Did some inappropriate things on the sideline. Got some heat for it. But it's just he's a competitor. I mean, Baker falls in that category. Either you love him or you just despise him. And I just happen to love him. He's a great player. I mean, does he have his motives and his ways? Yes, but that's what makes Baker him.
And I will also say this, probably some of the reason why I didn't originally like Baker, because he wasn't very good. Now he's
to start.
Now he's really turned it around. Mm-hmm. Credit to him. He's playing really well. And you look at the way the Bucks are right now. They are, I mean, they've got everything right in front of them to play well. Panthers, Raiders. Then you got the Chargers, which will be tough. But then Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. There is a good chance that they only lose one game the rest of the way.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, the Tampa Bay Todd
assuming
Bowles
Cowboys tank, right?
I was gonna say the thing is the Bucks will beat the Chargers and lose to the Cowboys. That's just the NFL way of things. For some odd reason, that's how it will go.
Yeah, no, it's possible. How do you feel on the Cowboys tank right now?
We couldn't even do that
disappointed?
right.
Are we disappointed in the tank?
We could not even do that right.
Couldn't tank correctly.
Goodness, I don't even the fact We got a field goal blocked. You missed a field goal. Luke Schoonmaker is catching touchdowns. I don't know if you've seen Turpin's. I don't know. Yesterday was just one of the days where it's just. I guess
Question
some
your
things.
fandom.
Yeah.
I love meaningless wins, man. There's nothing more as a fan. There's nothing more just like it's not even frustrating. It's just like deflating. Like why couldn't have they done that earlier in the year? You know, where you go on the road, beat a tough opponent. Why couldn't have that happened? Couldn't that have happened?
What is so hard because it's like you don't want to buy into it, but you look at the schedule. You get the Giants on Thursday, then you get Cincinnati, then you get Carolina, then you get Tampa, then you get Philly, then you get Washington. Where you're just like, you might be able to come out there and only lose 2 of those games. I say you lose to Philly. Let's say you lose to Cincinnati, which their defense is. Cincinnati is another iffy one, but I think Burrow torches us. So just say you lose to Philly, you lose to Cincinnati, and you win the rest, considering just say Washington sitting starters. And kind of, we were saying with the NFC, where you got the Lions, you got the Vikings, you got the Packers, you got the Eagles, and then it's everybody else. So it's just like, are they going to somehow sneak into that 7th seed? I would be so disappointed. I would be so disappointed.
What a league.
It's possible. It's not going to happen, but it's possible. And Cooper Rush has a winning record against Joe Burrow. So we're gonna throw that out there. So
hey, you don't need Genti.
That's true. We have Rico Dowdle. Yep. What a guy.
And Zeke. Now remember, Zeke's another year older, but he's also another year wiser.
That's true.
So, I mean, you really never know.
This team can't do anything right. Literally can't do anything right.
No. It's I feel your pain. That's all I'll say. Let's get to Thanksgiving. Let's get to more positive talks here, because I do feel bad putting your Cowboys here on the spot. Not necessary. I know how you're feeling. They blew the tank a little bit, but the tank is still there. They could still lose the rest of their games, or they could win out and get the 10 seed or the 7 seed.
That's true. Hopefully they're wise enough to just lose out.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about these Thanksgiving games. With the Dolphins playing better, it makes the night game a lot better. However, Tua in the cold is pretty much what I would look like if I was under center in an NFL game. So there is a chance that one in Green Bay is ugly because Tua, if the weather gets below like 60 degrees, Tua just can't handle himself. Really, Miami as a whole can't. So that's an interesting game. I mean, Giants, Cowboys. I mean, you got Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush. I think the Cowboys will win that game 100% because the Giants they are tanking. You talk about executing the tank. The Giants are precisely tanking. It doesn't get much better than this.
Oh, wow. And you got Detroit and
then Chicago as well, which I'll be honest, Chicago they're desperate. They're desperate. Eberflus is desperate. He's coaching for his job down the stretch here. He's probably not coming back. I'll be honest. I know we don't got much, we're going to wrap this up here because it is a longer episode. But why is Eberflus even still here? Or even still with Chicago? They should have gotten rid of him before this year. They should have blown the whole thing up. This is the problem with incompetent organizations when they bring in rookie quarterbacks. Now, Caleb Williams, you have fired his offensive coordinator middle of the year. So he's going to need another offensive coordinator, need to learn a new system. You're going to fire the coach. I mean, like how do these teams not see this coming? Eberflus is terrible. They should have gotten rid of him and blown it up, drafted Caleb and started fresh. It's just like, and I don't want to bring up the Jets too much, but it's just like the Jets. They should have fired Bowles after 2017. You could have made a case they should have fired him after 2016. But having a year of Darnold and Bowles and a offensive coordinator that was gone after that year, and then starting fresh 29, it just destroys these guys. Not to go on a rant, but
it's No, I'm right with you. It's so tough because you kind of don't ever really know where it's like, okay, is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it the quarterback? So I guess it's almost like it's a gamble. You just take a gamble and you just hope you, you pick the right one. That's all it is. But he's not it. He's not the
No.
answer. I mean, I don't know what Chicago is doing. Then again, like I said, you got all these pieces in the offseason, and Caleb has all this expectation and high hope, and they come in and they still look how they looked with Justin Fields. He should have been, if they wanted to give him another chance. I mean, after week 6, he should have been out of there. They've held on him for him too long. At his rate, let him
Yeah.
coach the season out. There's no
Yeah.
point in bringing in a new coordinator. Just let him coach the season out, get rid of him at the end of the year. But I agree with you. He should have been gone.
Yeah. 100%. And you look at some of these losses. New England at home. That's terrible. Terrible. And then, of course, they don't even show up in that Arizona game. Washington losing on a Hail Mary is brutal.
Tennessee,
So,
they didn't do anything offensively.
yeah.
The defense did everything.
Yeah.
They're
You're right.
just not.
They
They're
lost to
just
the
not a good
Colts.
team.
So, it's brutal. And you look at their schedule. And I know San Fran's struggling, but look at this schedule. Detroit on the road. So, look, if there was a chance for Eberflus to retain his job, if he went like 5-1 over the next 6 and found a way to make the playoffs, he would keep his job because he would have to do one heck of a job. At Detroit, at San Fran, at Minnesota, home against Detroit, home against Seattle, on the road in Green Bay.
Yeah, so
I mean,
not
honestly, they might win. They might end the season with 5 wins. Maybe they beat San Fran. Maybe they'll win one more game. They're not bad enough to lose all 6, but
I'm not too
maybe they are
sure.
bad enough. I mean, they have lost 5 in a row. So
I have not known they've lost 5 in a row. That's
yeah, they were
actually
4-2,
crazy.
4-2. Beat Jacksonville and London. That was it. Bye
Uh,
week, and now it's been nothing but downhill.
I'm not too sure what your up in your area, what famous grocery stores you guys got. So I'm gonna say Trader Joe's. He might as well fill out a Trader Joe's application. There. It's no way they go 5-1 in that stretch. I mean,
I mean,
3-2 at best.
they did videotape Salah walking out of the Whole Foods.
Whole Foods works. Whatever Chicago has up in that area, he can go ahead and fill out an application. Go work Chicago O'Hare or something like that as TSA. Best they go is 3-2, and I don't see that happening.
You got to find like a really bad defensive coordinator to work TSA because then he'll probably what's it called? He won't do a good job security because his defenses never do well.
Well, I had Mike Zimmer's application ready to be shipped, but clearly he's turned it around a little bit, so I'm holding on to it. I got it stamped in envelope. Haven't sent
You got
it
to get
off.
McCarthy's ready.
Oh, his
is already shipped.
His is already done. I don't think he's going to TSA though. I don't know what McCarthy
He's
do.
probably
He can go
he's gonna go work at like a Walmart.
I was gonna say the Whataburger in Dallas Fort Worth Airport, but that works just as well. I mean, they'll still be with each other, both in the same airport, but
He does.
they won't be coaching in Dallas next year. I can tell you that.
No, definitely not. All right, so Thanksgiving games. Let's do our picks for that. I'm not underdog picks. I'm not picking any of these games.
Absolutely not. I haven't even looked at the games really and
Dallas.
the spread. So.
I think all the favorites are going to win. Detroit -11. That is a big spread, but they've covered them this year. Dallas -4. Green Bay -3. So I don't see Miami upsetting Green Bay. I don't. The Giants are so bad; they're not going to win. And Chicago and Detroit, while they might not cover, Detroit's winning, but I'm not going to trust Chicago to cover, even though they did against the Vikings.
They cover for me this week.
They
so
did.
Caleb Williams, thank
you. They did. 2 in 1 week. No, wait. For you, it was
2-1.
2-1. Yes. And tonight for me, it depends on 2-1. So
just thanks the Rams, but I'm gonna go right with you. I mean, I know Detroit's 10-1. It's almost like when is it going to run out? the luck. I guess it's not going to be this week. I like Detroit. I like Green Bay and
Yeah.
Cooper Rush. I
The
can't.
Giant, there's no there. I do not see a world where the Cowboys lose that game, and it's not because they're good all of a sudden or like they've clicked something's clicked. No, they're four and
The
seven.
defense has figured it out.
The
I
defense
think
has
so.
figured out, and that's the thing. Tommy DeVito, he's gonna hold on to the ball like he's holding on to freaking turkey leg.
Well, he won't be eating that after the game. Usually
No,
that's
he
the
will not
winner.
be. No, isn't that crazy? Tomorrow or Thanksgiving, imagine Cooper Rush is gonna be eating the turkey leg.
Oh my gosh. In
Maybe
2024
Zeke.
is crazy.
Maybe
Yeah,
Zeke eats the
he's
turkey
probably
leg.
eating enough turkey leg. I think Zeke needs a break.
He's gonna eat one pregame. Actually, he's gonna do it the opposite way. Weigh
Probably
him
at
down, and then
halftime.
he's gonna be. He's so slow.
I don't get it.
He's like Todd Gurley with his arthritis.
He
Except
literally taught like literally. I
it's
don't
bad.
understand Zeke, but for
I'll be
us, I mean,
honest. You can
go
go.
ahead. I'm gonna let you start off.
I'll be honest. Look, sometimes watching guys washed is sad, but I feel like watching washed running backs might be the saddest of them all.
I think I agree with that. I
They're
mean, it's
just
one
so
thing
like
for like
slow.
slow. You can't cut. You can't
They
make
don't
any
break
moves.
tackles.
You're just out there. Like
It's
it's.
like 3, 4. It's like 3 yards. It's like 2, 3 yards of carry. Like the play's just like slow developing. The stats, the box score numbers aren't pretty. It's usually like 6 carries for like 10 yards. The
And I just
longest
don't
run of the
get.
day was like for 3.
He was in New England last year, like Barry Sanders, for that Indy part of the year. Now he gets back to Dallas, and it's just like he left all his ability in New England.
Yeah.
Oh, but my last pick, I haven't even picked it. I think we get. I know Diggs didn't play on Sunday. Neither did Zach Martin. Deron Bland came back. Think if we get those guys, and we should, we are in the lovely best uniforms in football: blue, navy blue, white shoulders with the blue stars. If we wear those,
Yes.
Dallas by 14. If we're in seafoam, we're still gonna win, but it's gonna be a lot closer.
Going off the unis. I like it. Yeah, I'll
Absolutely.
go Lions, Cowboys, Packers go right down the list. Tommy Cutlets gets sacked 6 times. That's what I'm saying.
6 times
That's
a pick. I was going to say
yeah,
2,
they're
but
definitely
we're
gonna
saying a
pick.
pick.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Any closing thoughts?
Enjoy our Monday night. Pretty good game going on, and we will be
Yes,
back
sir.
on Sunday. Kind of a
Yes.
short week. This how teams feel when they play on like Sunday to
This is like a
Thursday.
short week.
Like,
Yeah.
I guess
We
we'll
gotta
be
get
back
like
on
we gotta get
Sunday.
recovery in here. We gotta get rolling. Short week.
Sunday it is. Very short week, but
I'll tell you what, it's a great week for football. You've got Thursday night, you got third Thanksgiving football day. You've got rivalry week in college football, last week of the season. Couple rivalry games. I know with the whole conference realignment, there's a couple games that aren't happening, but all you got the Iron Bowl. You of course got the Michigan Ohio Stadium. No, Michigan struggled this year. Should still be a good game. Those guys always get up for those games, play a little extra harder. So that's happening. Then you got Black Friday football, and no, Tim Boyle will not be a part of it like last year. So it should be a better Black Friday game than we saw last year. There should be no Fail Marys, although Aiden O'Connell will be under center, so that's probably not any better, but who knows? This is the world we live in. And then you got Sunday. So you have, since week 1, there will be 4 straight days of football. Thursday night, or Thanksgiving, Thursday night. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, college football Saturday, Sunday slate, and then close
that
it up with Monday Night Football in Denver.
that horrific Monday night game of
That is
Jameis and
bad.
Bo Nix. But
That is bad.
yeah, other than that, pretty good week of football.
Philly goes to Baltimore this week.
Looking at this now, Cardinals bounce back in Minnesota. I think Chargers go to Atlanta. Gino and
Ooh,
his return to
Cardinals
MetLife.
bounce back in Minnesota. Ooh.
Not taking them as my underdog pick, but
Mm.
maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. There's some of these
Dare I say Jacksonville +5 against Houston?
That game came down to the wire last time.
Yes, let's get crazy. Nah, we'll do that next week. Don't want to spoil them yet. I still got to finish the job here with the Chargers. Get 2-1 on the week and keep it even.
They're
So
up 7-0
that'll do
in
it.
the first quarter.
Yes. I need Herbert to do a little bit more here. Anyway, that'll do it. We will talk to you guys next week. And yeah, thanks for watching. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy the football. And catch you guys soon.